But first, proof, by the way, that not all Sky After Dark hosts think the same. Former New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian, she's just been found today to be corrupt. She was a fool for love, but corrupt. And what do I see today, though? Berejiklian being defended because she seems nice. Because I think actually she's a woman too. A long-delayed report by the New South Wales Independent Commission Against Corruption today said Berejiklian was corrupt for giving government grants to 2 local projects in the electorate of a secret lover at the time, Daryl Maguire, himself an MP. Now, I think those findings are unconvincing. I mean, if you look closely enough, how many other government grants are also given as favours and rewards awarded to make politicians more popular? But more serious and more convincing was that ICAC found Berejiklian was also corrupt for turning a blind eye to Maguire's corruption. Now, the secret tapes recorded by ICAC of Berejiklian talking to Maguire showed her cutting him off when he was trying to explain his dirty deals to her, which involved selling influence for money, and these tapes were damning.
You know my little friend?
Not really. Don't worry. I don't need to know. Which little friend are you talking about?
I don't need to know about that bit.
You might be able to assist this commission in answering by reason of material that you had to your knowledge, correct?
No. I didn't feel I had anything or knew anything. I didn't even have last names. I knew nothing.
Now, that sounds to me like a Premier who knew that her lover, more importantly, one of her MPs, was up to no good. Now, also damning was Berejiklian's stuttering performance when she was confronted with those tapes in ICAC hearings and asked to explain why she hadn't reported Maguire's clearly suspicious behaviour to ICAC.
I'm asking you whether at that point in time you suspected that Mr Maguire was engaged in corrupt conduct.
I didn't know. I didn't know what. I was in shock. I didn't know what to think.
And there's really no excuse at all for Berejiklian not reporting Maguire, who now faces criminal charges, by the way. No excuse at all, given that 5 years ago she herself reminded every politician in Parliament they had a duty to tell ICAC of any suspected corrupt activity.
Madam Speaker, I refer my call to every single member of this place. If you see or hear anything which is of concern, which you feel ICAC should investigate, refer it on the spot.
But here's the bizarre thing today. Even her Labor opponents didn't dare attack Berejiklian. Her former Liberal colleagues even praised her. And I wonder, how does this work? Commentators praising her, defending her, calling this outrageous. I know that Berejiklian was and still is very popular, especially among female voters. And I can understand a lot of Liberals are upset that one of their own has got slotted. Let's not play tribal politics. Remember, think first. How would you react if you're a Liberal? How would you react if it was a Labor politician going la 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 when their lover was telling them, oh, look, I'm on the take a bit? How would you react then? Let's not play tribal politics here. Now, I know women in particular were making excuses for Berejiklian. You know, oh, the Premier was in love with a man who did her wrong. The poor thing. I mean, what could she do? Now, please, if women are supposedly good enough to be Premier, and they are, they're also good enough to obey the law. Do we now excuse corruption in a Premier because she's in love? That's very patronising. Mind you, the new New South Wales Premier, Chris Minns, he knows there's a lot of sympathy for Berejiklian, so much he was very careful today not to damn her.
Nothing in this report takes away, I don't think, from Premier Berejiklian's handling of the COVID emergency, which I still regard as being excellent. It's important, however, for all politicians in New South Wales and anyone in public life or positions of leadership to understand that we must manage conflicts of interest.
The new Liberal leader even praised her.
She was an incredibly popular Premier because she worked her guts out for the people of New South Wales.
And Berejiklian later issued a brief statement saying, well, yes, indeed, she was loved, wasn't she? She said, serving the people of New South Wales was an honour and privilege. At all times I've worked my hardest in the public interest. Nothing in this report demonstrates otherwise. not that that was at issue. Thank you to members of the public for the incredible support. This will sustain me always. By the way, the report is currently being examined by my legal team. Now that's amazing. I mean, really, if we were talking about a male premier who failed to report the apparent corruption of a secret lover, I doubt we'd hear half this sympathy for him. But all that said, there is actually, on the other hand, nothing good at all about the report that gave this finding. A report released today very publicly by ICAC in a strange bit of theatre. I say there's nothing good because ICAC itself comes out smelling bad. And that's summed up by this, that after 3 years of investigating Berejiklian, after 18 months after she was hounded into quitting politics, it's only now, finally, that ICAC says, well, she's corrupt. In fact, guilty of serious corruption. And you've got to ask, why such a delay? You also got to ask how this is serious corruption. I mean, serious corruption when Berejiklian herself didn't personally profit. And I wonder if even ICAC believes all this, because it then adds that Berejiklian actually broke no law. So we're supposed to believe that what she did was supposedly serious corruption, yet somehow still legal. Now, I wonder if ICAC actually has much confidence in how all this would stand up in court, that it isn't taking her there. And think how punishing that long, long delay to hear all this was on Berejiklian. I mean, how could she have spent the last 3 years wondering if she might even go to jail? That's unfair. Justice delayed, justice denied. But let me now talk to the reporter who saw from the start that Berejiklian was in deep, deep trouble, and he called her out publicly. Now I'm talking about our own Andrew Clennell, Sky News political editor, who got a lot of heat, including from Sky News viewers, for confronting Berejiklian like this before she quit as Premier.
When he was talking about Badgerys Creek land deals, I don't need to know that bit.
Mr Clennell, I reject that assumption strongly. I've always acted in the best interest of the people of this state.
It's not about the personal, it's about the professional. Why didn't you pull up Daryl Maguire in any of these phone calls? Why didn't you report any of this behaviour? He was clearly lobbying for developers while you were Premier and he was a parliamentary secretary. Why didn't you act on this, Premier?
Well, look, that's all your opinion, Mr Clennell.
It's in the evidence, Premier. And why didn't it raise alarm bells for you that he was lobbying for matters outside his electorate? It must have, Premier.
That at all times there was a clear distinction between my personal life and the way I conducted my public office.